we're going to also talk a little bit about two Japanese pitchers who are coming stateside this year, probably. I mean, you never know for sure until the offseason, but it seems like these guys are going to be posted. It's a little bit of a complicated process, but, Josh, why don't you fill us in on who those two are?
Yeah, so the only two I've really heard linked to them at all would be and I don't know if I'm totally saying his name correctly on this one. So Shota Amaniga, is that correct? I think.
I think it's
And then
Imanaga,
Yamamoto,
but yeah.
Imamaga, and then
Yeah.
Yamamoto would be the other one that people
Hey,
know about. Um, Imanaga, is that what you said it was again?
It's Imanaga, I think. I'm
Ima,
not
I'm
100%
so
sure on
bad
that.
at names. If I ever say a name wrong the first time, I say it wrong every time. But he's the one that they've actually went out and scouted before back in June that was reported. Um, and he seems like more someone that would be in the price range because he's probably looking more at a $15 million a year over 4 years type of deal. I think the issue with him is that he has to be posted by his team, and so that's not a guarantee. But I think he's a free agent this year too, so it actually makes sense for them to post him like within the league. And so
okay.
it's kind of complicated, but they think he'll be posted. So he's a lefty that probably projects as more of a number three at best, four or more of a 4-5 type starter. But he brings a lot of swing and miss, and I believe he pitched in the World Baseball Classic as well. Yeah, in the championship game and looked really well. So he's a guy that, especially as the Cardinals looking at three starters, number one, you're hoping it's someone higher on the end of that.
Yeah.
But he's someone that could bring some swing and miss. He won't require a draft pick either to sign, which is a big deal. He's 30 or he will be 30. So that's he's not like a 35, 36 range like some of these starters will be. So he's the one I would say is the most actually directly linked. And then someone that's been like linked as in like it makes sense is Yamamoto. Um, I don't know, Andrew or Sandy, if you guys have seen other things, but it seems like baseball's kind of cooled off on Yamamoto as of late. I used to see him as like, he's like in the class of Aaron Nola, Blake Snell, and then it's Yamamoto's the
Wow.
other. But lately, it seemed like like people are thinking he's a really good number three, not like a number one or two. Again, I haven't seen a pitch enough to make that declaration for myself. But if that's true, that's another guy that probably price himself into the Cardinals range more. He's also a lot younger though, so that's like there might be a higher ceiling there than what you're getting with someone else. So I think those are definitely two names to watch because they're going after three. They're going to have to be creative about one of them, and I think going after one of the Japanese arms makes a lot of sense. So, thoughts, guys, on that at all?
Yeah, I'm really high on Yamamoto. He currently has a 1.57 ERA and a 0.88 whip this year in the Japanese league. I know those
Okay.
numbers aren't, it's not going to be that in the majors, but that's like really, really good. I don't think we've really seen these kinds of numbers from any of the other pitchers that have really come over. Even like Shohei Ohtani wasn't that good in the
Mm.
Japanese leagues. I think he's won back-to-back triple crowns in Japan, and he's on pace to win another one. And I think he'd be the first pitcher over there and maybe ever to do that. He's really, really good. And he's, I think, 24 years old. So you develop that into something really good in the majors. Like this guy is crazy. And I think some of the major league teams might be undervaluing him a little bit. I think he's worth a really big contract. I know a lot of baseball fans know about Roki Sasaki. He's really exciting. He throws like 103 miles an hour. Unfortunately, he's not available to come to the U.S. for another like 3, 4 years. He's like 21. He's really young. The rules over there are really complicated on when you can be posted and the amount of money you can make. I think only Ohtani was like the only pitcher that came over um, while he was really young, because pitchers who come over or players who come over when they're really young, they lose out on a bunch of money, a potential big contract, because they have to sign like a minor league deal over here. But Yamamoto, I think he's worth a really big contract. It would be a big risk because Japanese pitchers can often like fall off in the big leagues. It's not entirely sure how well they'll play, but I think this guy should be one of the most can't miss guys coming over from Japan. He's really exciting.
Yeah, Andrew, I'm confused a little bit too about why he's not valued higher by other teams because I'm looking like I've looked at that stuff too, and he's been top of the league for multiple years in the Japanese league. I think if I'm going to point out one thing, it's probably his K rate isn't. I mean, it's like under 10, which I think that, I mean, with the kind of stuff he has, you might worry that like it's almost like Dustin May, where it's like he's got elite stuff, but why doesn't he strike out more people? So I wonder if they think if he comes over to the majors, that K rate might drop even more, and then he's more hittable. But he still seems like at worst a 3 with higher upside. But maybe that's some posturing by major league teams trying to get his market to go down. So you never really know with stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, what stuck out to me most with what you just said was the low whip. I think that's something that does translate because that means there's good control. You can throw strikes in the Japanese league. You can throw strikes here. A pitcher who's wild over there, like Fujinami, probably is going to come over here and be pretty wild. So I think that's probably the thing that we can count on translating the most. And it's something the Cardinals have struggled with over the last few years. So that's really interesting to me. Let's get a guy who doesn't walk anybody. Those pitchers, you fill up the zone, generally good things happen. So I would love for the Cardinals to be in on a guy like that. Just briefly, I want to go over a bit of, the Cardinals' history in terms of getting pitchers, recent history in terms of getting pitchers out of some of the Asian leagues, right? So KBO, the Nippon League. We've seen them resurrect the careers of Miles Michaelis. Drew Verhagen came over. While he hasn't been great, he's had moments where it looks like, wow, Drew Verhagen might be a really competent pitcher. I'm really upset because I know he's going to be a free agent and he's going to go somewhere and be like a competent fifth starter next year, and it's going to drive me up a wall. But whatever. And then Kwang Hyun Kim was a fantastic Cardinal who never got the appreciation he really deserved. And I think COVID just made it kind of a weird environment for him. I know he was really homesick while he was here. But he and Miles Michaelis, I think, are obvious success stories. So the Cardinals have had a successful history recently in terms of, mining talent from those leagues.
Yeah. And I feel like in general, the hit rate's gone up on those guys where like, I feel like if you look in the early 2000s, like it was almost kind of like even like the NBA where international guys for a long time, they're always overhyped and ended up being terrible.
Yeah. Like Dragic.
Yeah. But it's like now it's like, they've got I feel like they have a better pulse on how to evaluate that talent. It's not that you can't miss on them. So I feel like I'm less stressed out about going after one of those guys nowadays, seeing it translate more often.
Yeah. Because you don't want to get Yusei Kikuchi and sign him to like a 6 or 7 year deal like the Mariners did and then really struggle under the weight of that deal because obviously that didn't work. Although he's been a little better recently. He's actually been really good this year. So maybe that, like you said, the hit rate probably is a lot higher.